All right, so I'm just going to start sharing my screen. So again, this is our meeting number 9. Some of you, I think, have been to every one of these, which is fantastic, and fantastic if you're just coming today. So welcome. And the purpose of Google Club has been for us to practice new Google tools, to learn a little bit from one another, and think about new ways to apply Google tools in our teaching and in our lives. This year we had as a theme the educator certificate level 1 from Google, not with any requirement that you actually take that exam, but just that it was a good theme for us to think through all the things that they consider knowledge you should have as an educator. And then I think some people are interested in taking that certificate, so maybe that's even going to be part of your summer goal. So our objectives today, basically, for you to make a plan for your learning this summer. And obviously, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of Google and digital skills, but anything we talk about today, I think you can apply to anything else that you might want to do this summer and help yourself succeed at that. I have put the slides in the chat. Let me put them in there one more time. Again, you don't have to really use those. We'll be looking at them mostly together, but some people I know like to play along, so you're welcome to join me if you want to. And at the end, I might ask you what you're going to do with that link if you try clicking it, and how you'll get back to these slides if you want to do it that way. Just a reminder, it's kind of the end of the year. In fact, I think this is our very last workshop that the LEC is doing for June, so there won't be much going on here now, but this is DYCD's message board where you can find out about workshops starting in the new fiscal year. So how are you all doing? Do you already have ideas? Anyone here already have an idea of what they would like to take some time this summer to improve their skills in a certain area? It doesn't have to be Google if you already have another plan. And is your summer different than a regular time? Like, I think we have this fantasy that summers are slower or we have more space in them for our own lives, and I'm not sure that that's true. It's fine if you don't have any ideas already. So one of the things we're going to talk about.
I have many ideas.
Yay! All right.
I'm going out to the country, so I'm just gonna be.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
And when you're out there, you're just going to relax and eat good food and hang out with good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do some reading, so not really heavy work or anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
thank you.
So some of the stuff we're going to cover just now is things you could even think about doing with your learners if it was something that was interesting for them to set up plans for projects or learning that they would like to do. So the idea is that we're going to talk a little bit about goal setting, right? So first of all, we have to dream up what it is that we would like. I like this one I stole from the southlakecounseling.com website, but I like the idea that what would make the summer feel magical and meaningful to you? And maybe that's not Google, maybe it is. Then you need to write down what your ideas are, and you could journal them. You could just have a list on your phone somewhere that you can access really easily. That just makes it one less obstacle to getting back to it. So whatever the goal is or the dream that you have is, write it down. Then get really specific. Like, what does that mean? What would it look like to really succeed at the thing that you would like to do? So you want to have really clear steps in the process, or at least a description of what the outcome would look like. And then you want to celebrate along the way, which I also thought was really nice. So noting along the way in your project, like, when are moments that you can notice success and feel the celebration there. So if we're thinking about Google, and I'm going to take us through Google because that's what this club is about, but like I said, any of this can apply anywhere else in your life too. As I asked, like, if anybody already knows something googly that or whatever they would like to do, I heard there was silence, so I'm going to take that to mean that perhaps people don't know yet what they would like to do. there's an intrigue, you're intrigued, but you don't know quite what it would be. So I was thinking about this for myself, right? I have some things this summer that I'd like to take this summer to learn some things. There are other level certificates that I'm kind of interested in, and I have an idea of maybe taking all of my digital literacy resources and putting them into a Padlet in a really organized way. So those are kind of, they're not even necessarily learning new things, but they're going to have a really wonderful outcome that I'll learn some new things in doing them. Um, so I already know those things. But then maybe I want to know what's new, like what there's stuff out there that I don't even know is happening. And so one thought I had is that you could go to your Google Drive. And I realized when I did this that because my work uses Google Workspace, when I go to my Drive and I go under New, I get this thing called Google Vids. And I felt like that was the one thing here that I really didn't know. And so I clicked on it and I started looking at it. And then I realized actually you don't get Google Vids if you don't have Google Workspace. So if you just have a regular, we call it like a commercial level account, which is your Gmail account, you might not see Vids in there. So Vids is a AI video editing tool, creator tool. Um, so if your work has Workspace, you might be seeing that in your Drive, but you might not be seeing it if you don't have it. So that's fine. For me, Vids would be something to explore a little bit more, but I need a purpose for them. And I know we've talked before about using video. So it's pretty cool, I have to say. If you do have access to it, I'll create one right here. The idea is that you can just put in content, and there's editing. Yeah, I started with the record and share, and you can have, it's not unlike doing a regular screencast or whatever, but the idea that you could, and I've done this in Canva where you can upload photos and it will kind of make a little narrative for you. Even planning your video story, there's templates. I haven't played with any of this stuff, so this might be an area that I'll explore. But I do think sometimes exploration has more meaning if you have a product that you want to have come out of it. So I have to think about that a little bit. So that's Vids. That's one way to find maybe a tool. So under New, we have Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. I have Google Vids. We have Google Forms. And then if you go under More, you have Google Drawings, you have Google My Maps, you have Google Sites, and Google App Scripts. And I have to say, I've never done anything with the app scripts either. So that might be an area to explore. I actually used My Maps a lot. Has anyone here used Google My Maps? The way that Google My Maps works is you get a Google map, but then you get to, oh, my phone thinks I want to talk to it. I don't want to create one. So these are all maps I've created. And basically when I go on vacation, I make a map. And I go in and I put in all the things, all the places I want to go. And it gives me this lovely legend on the side. So and I can access this on my phone. So this allows me to, really find all the things I want to find. I can share this map with other people. So we've made maps before for I think we did one around restaurants around the LAC, maybe. Let's see if I have that one. I don't know if we have that one. Or if you're going on vacation with other people, you can share the map with them. When I've traveled, sometimes people want to, know more about where I live. So this is when I first got married, I still had been living in Brooklyn and my husband lived in Queens, and it was like this very, different world. So you can really do different things with My Maps and then share them with other people or embed them in your website. So learners could make, website or maps of what's important to them, or you could make a map of places where you can find resources that are helpful, like where the libraries are in your neighborhood or something like that. So it can be a very useful tool. And the way you do it is, and I could go back into any of my old maps. So if I go to this one and I was to put in some places, I could search for them here. So say I wanted to find Indian restaurants. I do like Indian restaurants. In Lincoln. Let's see what it does for us. All right, so it popped them right down there. So now I see all of these and I can choose which ones I want to include in my map. So I'm going to say this one I want to include. So I'm going to add it to my map. And then I can change the color, right? So I could have a code for color for different kinds of food, perhaps, or whatever. And now that's on my map. You can have different layers. So you could turn off all the places to eat. In fact, I should have made that one into a place to eat. So in fact, I should move that. Can I just drag it down here? Yes. So now the Indian restaurant is in my places to eat. So if I get rid of places to stay and Jolene, I'm only going to see restaurants. So it's very simple. It's a free part of Google. It fits in with Maps, but it's called My Maps. So if you want to do it, you just have to type in mymaps.google.com. Any questions or thoughts? You could,
Very cool.
yeah. Yeah, and you can, it is a good one for the summer in the sense that often we do some traveling, or maybe we have relatives come visit us or friends come visit us, and it's a way you could make a map for all the things they should do when they come to visit you. So, wait, yeah. Did someone want to say something? All right. Feel free to unmute whenever you want to.
Yeah, I did. I have an
Oh,
idea.
excellent. Yeah.
I've had this a desire for a long time to convert film slides to digital
Yes.
because I want to be able to share them with people. I'm going to Europe this summer, and I want to share some pictures that I took when I was living there
Yes.
some years ago. Do you think that's a good project to
I think
undertake?
I think it's a great project. I mean, it's going to take some. So these are slides or regular photos?
Well, I have both. I have slides and images.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 4x6. Yeah.
What I would say about the slides is you might need particular, like something that would allow you to scan those more easily. We have that issue in my family. My parents took lots of slides and we've not really done anything with them. And we also have a lot of photos that we need to scan. I would say from my experience, the downside is that it's a lot of work and you would definitely perfect some skills. If you then decided, so the Google part of that could be using Google Photo. I don't know if so the first step would be to figure out how you're going to get them from being a piece of paper or a slide to being a digital file. And I've done the most lightest version, which is I've just taken photos with my phone and then had them as a photo of a photo. But you definitely can get them. You can scan them, and there are scanners you can get that actually are a little bit automated. So you can, kind of have your picture go through and then do another one. It's a little less work than having to lay them down. And then the question would be, yeah, where do you want those files to reside? And I would say, because I'm going to talk from the Google side of the world, that Google Photos is I find it a nice tool in that, like my husband is an iPhone user and he has everything in iPhone world. And it's very hard then if people aren't iPhone folks to use his content or to see it almost. So Google to me is helpful because it's a little bit agnostic, as we've said before. Like it works kind of very well with Android, but it also works very well with iPhone. It works well on a computer. You can use it on a Chromebook, on a tablet. So that's yeah, go ahead.
If I were to use Google Slides, for example, or Google Camera, does the person that I want to share it with, do they have to have a Google Drive?
No, they do not.
Okay.
And
That's where I'm going with this whole thing is I want to make things available to other people.
Yes.
And an easy way to do it. And you just gave me this inspiration when I saw your maps.
Excellent. Well, so photos.google.com, as we know, with all these tools, we start off with a name. So photos.google.com, you put up your photos, they'll be there. then you can make an album. And the way you make an album is you just go in and say, I want this picture and this picture, and this picture. And then the usual rule in Google where you have that plus sign, I click plus and I can make an album.
Okay.
And now with the album, I'll make a new album and I get to give it a title, summer, and I can stop editing it. And then later on, I could add more photos to it. But this is where you get that link to share it. And you can give people ability to add their photos to it. You can just grab the link, right? So if I just grab that link now and I emailed that to you or even made that into a QR code, then if I give you this link, you will see that album. And then if it could be a shared album if you wanted to, but it sounds like for you, what you're trying to do is sort of create a photo album that you want to share with other people that they can, or you could even sit with them and look at it together to reminisce about good old days, whatever, right? So it definitely works that way. And for me, it's a very easy way to organize my photos if I want to come back to them. And this photo could be in 5 different albums. So it's very, I find it pretty easy to, like, another thing that my husband complains about is organizing his pictures. And I don't know if whatever he's using just doesn't have albums or he doesn't like albums, but the albums become basically a filing tool. Yeah, so that's super exciting. I would definitely explore. And Google Photo you can have on your phone and you could set it. So in my world, what happens is every photo I take on my phone automatically goes to Google Photo. And that means I can delete it from my phone, but it still lives in Google Photo across all my devices. And I can get back to photos from, like, 20 years ago, maybe not 20 years ago. Let's see what my earliest photos are. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But so, for taking content that's already been made and translating it so it can be in Google Photo is one way. And then the other way is that you're actually, as you create new content, new photos on your devices, you can have it go into Google Photo.
Okay,
And
one last question. One
yeah.
last question.
Yeah.
And can I do metadata? In other words, could I give them labels or give some indication instead of just 10 different
Yes.
pictures that people don't know what they're looking at? Can I
Yeah.
have this one be, I see you're Sweden 2009. So you say this
Right.
one is Gothenburg and this one is Stockholm and this one is so on and
Yes.
so on.
You could do all of that. And what's funny is I'm so much more able to do that on my phone. So on my phone, you just drag up on the picture and you get all that metadata. If I go into this photo, let's see what I can do here. So we can,
I'm sorry to hog everybody's
no,
time.
no. Well, other folks can ask questions too. I think I go over here. There we go. So that's annotating. That's not it at all. So we'll have to look that up because I know you can do it. I just do it on my phone and not on here.
You have to click the eye.
The
letter.
eye. The information. I like it. There you go. So you can add your own description there. Thank you for that. You can add your own description up here. I have mine set up so it doesn't include location because I just didn't want that to be an automatic part of my photo, but it does tell you what albums it's in. It tells you when it was taken and the tool that I used to take it. But yeah, you could type in whatever information you wanted to. And if you're showing, I mean, you might show this on a laptop or something, but if they're looking at it on their phone, then it really is very easy to see this information. I mean, it was easy here once we knew to click on the eye. But if you're doing it on my phone, I just drag up a little bit and I get all that information right below the photo. Did that help? I'm going to get rid of that. Excellent. All right, let's back to our slides. So one idea, as I said, was to go under new. Another idea is to look at apps, and apps is like a crazy wild world. So I'm going to show it to you. It could be overwhelming. When I started looking at it, I was like, whoa, this is several summers worth of work, but we can talk a little bit about how you could narrow down to what you might be particularly interested in. So these apps are third-party tools. Some of them are made by Google as well to work with Google. So some of these you'll be familiar with because they exist in the world without Google. Loom is a good example, right? Loom allows you to make very quickly screencasts. So you can use it just on its own, but you could get the Loom app, and then that would have some more. It looks like here it fits into Google Chat. So this is like, it's like going through your app store or something. It's just gonna be lots and lots of stuff. So you kind of want to decide in advance, perhaps, put in some filters. If there's a particular tool that you use a lot and you'd like to learn more, Forms is an interesting one because there's a lot of stuff for Forms. Let's try Forms. And let's see. All right, I want to say Forms. Will it do it? I don't know why it's not taking my suggestions. It's not changed my options here. All right, well, I was looking at this yesterday and it did work. So I don't know what's going on right now. But you certainly could search for areas, like if we wanted to look for Forms and see if there's some apps that go along with Forms. Like this was one I saw yesterday where you could take a PDF or doc or slides and turn it into Google Forms, which would be a quick way to make a Google quiz or something like that. So if there's an area that you're already feeling kind of comfortable in, but you want to extend your knowledge or go deeper in a different way, most of these are free, if not all. I think some might cost money. Sometimes it's interesting. I feel like we don't always know what's even possible. I was talking to a friend about our staff meetings, and I'm frustrated by our staff meetings because they tend to be a time when every staff member just tells me all the things they are doing, and they kind of want to show off how busy they are, which I understand, but it's not that useful. Like we could definitely do that kind of sharing of information a different way. And he said, well, he had figured out how to use something called Airtable, which you may be familiar with, to create automated email that goes out to the staff and asks everyone to put in whatever, their updates are into an Airtable. They have 24 hours to do it, once a week or something like that. And then the Airtable also sends out an automated email the next day with all the things that people have shared. And now there's an email for the staff that gives us the updates that everyone, would normally take time to do in a meeting. And then we could still have our meeting, but we could maybe spend more time in the meeting to think about connections between the different work that we're doing or whatever. And I'm like, I wouldn't have even, like, I don't know how to do that yet, but I can Google how to do it. I can do some, I can figure it out a little bit. But if I didn't even know it was a possibility, then I can't even begin to think about how I would do it, right? So some of this could just be discovery. These tools are not, I don't want 50 new tools, so that's me, but I would like maybe to know that there's a tool out there that would improve my ability to do this or that. And part of that has to just be discovery, right? Like you're out there, it's like, this is almost like reading a magazine to see all the things that are out there. Like email notifications for Forms. So you get a confirmation email to users after they submit a form, and you could write something more explicit than what normally goes out. So anyway, there's some interesting things here. It might just be a review, and then as a goal, you're going to try 2 of them. So this could be a place to find new things, even if you're not using these particular apps, but new things you could do with apps, or new things you could think about doing with some of the Google tools out there. Just like your app store, it's, there's a lot of stuff. There are rankings here, so that can maybe help you decide things. You could certainly take the name here and Google it and see if you're seeing people use it in ways that are interesting before you even download it. So those are some things I probably would do. I would maybe go out and see examples of how people are using some of these things before I decided which ones to try out. Let's see, apps to discover. Oh, look at that. Zoom for Google Workspace. Anyway, endless amounts. So not to overwhelm you, and that's the downside of all of this, right? This can be very overwhelming, and we want to help ourselves find a sort of manageable, make it manageable, not make it taxing and make you not ever want to do it, and then it fades away from you. Are there some other ideas? So we have here the list of the tools that we used this year in Google Club. Google Calendar, I feel like I haven't used to its fullest extent. So maybe planning for the new year, I could set up Google Calendar a little bit more. I was talking to another colleague about one of her goals was to figure out how to just set up more automated emails going out of, I think she's using Outlook, but you could do it with Gmail too. So learning, so she could just set up in advance. If we're going to meet 5 times, she could have an email already set up all 5 emails at one time and have them go out. And she wanted to do that, but then she needed to try it out and it didn't always work. So, that has to be part of the process too. So you might need some buddies. I'm happy to be a buddy if you want to try something out where you need to see if it works. Google Tasks is another area that I'm not that familiar with because I use Google Keep a lot. I don't know, do you all know Google Keep? Because we've talked about it a few times, but I feel like it's still one of the tools that that's a little bit more unknown because it doesn't show up in your drive.
No, I don't know it.
So the way that Google Keep works, let's go up here. Oh, I learned a new thing. I'll show that off too. So here's so as we say, the rule with Google Tools, I could type the word keep.google.com. So as far as we've experienced, every Google tool works this way. So I'm sure there's one that doesn't, but most tools work this way. If you type in, for Gmail, it's mail. So it's mail.google.com, slides.google.com, forms.google.com. So here we have keep.google.com. You already have it. You might never have used it. And the way that Keep works is it's a note-taking app. So say I am, my summer goals, right? So Google Practice Summer 2025. So that's my title. And then I'm going to take my notes. So for me, what I have Keep on my phone as well. So when I'm out in the world and I want to make a note, I can do that. If I'm reading an article that I don't have time to finish reading right now, I can share it to my Keep. These ones are all pinned. So these are ones I come back to quite often. But when I save something that I'm reading on my phone, let's get down to how that looks. Did I go past it already? Okay, here we go. So these are articles that I was reading that I didn't have time to finish or that I want to come back to, or maybe I'm going to use them or share them with other people. And it will just grab the title of the article and then give me the link out to that article. You'll notice that there are these little labels down here, and that's something I can add. So I have labels down the side here. So if I want to find all of my notes that have an AI label, I click on that, and now I have all my AI articles. So I can get back to them even very easily. But I would say what I like the most is I can also just type in Perplexity, and the search is very good. It's a word search, label search, everything, and it will find me all the articles that have Perplexity in them, even if I didn't label them. So Perplexity is a AI tool, just to explain why I would look up Perplexity. But I have lots of recipes here, so I could look up eggplant, and there'll be lots of eggplant recipes. And this labeling thing is interesting. So I was just reading for Google Workplace, there are some people who are using these labels instead of folders in their Google Drive. So instead of, Google Club 2025 as a folder, I would just have a label that was called Google Club 2025. And everything I did that was related to Google Club for 2025 would get that label, but it might get an additional label, right? It might get Google Slides as a label, or Google Keep as a label if it was a particular session on Google Keep. And so then you can kind of, instead of making lots of shortcuts, which is what I do now, right? What happens right now is I have folders for each Google Club meeting. And then if inside Google Club number 4, we were looking at both Google Keep and Google Sheets, I might do a shortcut to the Google Sheets part for another folder that's called Google Sheets. Like it feels great in that I can get to everything from everywhere, but it's also chaotic. And I feel a little bit like sometimes I'm not sure where things are. So I'm intrigued by this idea of labels for folders and files. I haven't used it yet because you could only do it with Workspace. And I think the Workspace administrator has to create the labels, but that's their term for these. We've called them other things in other tools, like they're called, it's kind of like a hashtag, right? Like it's a way of just creating a pin that all these things sit with. When I find something that I really like, or an article that I want to do something with, I have a lot of options. So I can format it, I can change the color, add some picture in the background. I can add a remind me. This is one of the craziest things. So this can remind me when let's see if it'll show it here. It's supposed to be an option to remind me when I'm in the grocery store. So let's see if I can make this bigger. Yes, so pick a place. So when I go to, let's see, what grocery store would I put in there? We'll just say Key Food. I might have to say an actual Key Food location, right? So this has nothing to do with my reality, but that's fine. And I click save. Now, when I go into that grocery store, I'm going to get a little like bing from my phone, and it'll remind me to come here and look for these ingredients. I've never used it. It's cool, but I've never used it. I can share it with other people. They do have to actively be using their Google Keep, and I tried doing it with my brother-in-law, and he had to download Google Keep, and it was a lot of work just to get him to the place where he could share lists with me, and I think that was irritating to him. So it wasn't really a great way to do it. But if I had a colleague who really used Google Keep a lot, it would be a great way to share resources with each other, and both people can collaborate in the same document. It's a bit like Trello that way, maybe if you use Trello.
Question real quick.
Yeah.
Well, just to include, the Google Apps is located both for Android and iPhones. So I don't know why would there be an issue of sharing material through the Google Apps. They're both available for Android
Yes.
and iPhone. But
And
my question, no, I'm
okay.
sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
My question was, could this be added to my maps? Say I went to a place that I had a great eggplant parmesan. Could I've added this element pin it to a map with a restaurant?
So you definitely could, right? So this case, this is a recipe, but if I came across a restaurant that I, loved and I want to go back to, you can do that in your maps anyway, right? So if I just go to maps.google.com and let's say that I want to, it went away. We'll say that this is a Thai restaurant in my neighborhood. I go there, I really love it. You can save it on just regular Google Maps that's associated with your account. So I'm logged into my Chrome and I'm looking at my Google Maps through that. If I was on my phone, I'm logged into my phone version as well.
Right.
So then you can click save and you can add it to, actually, I think it's letting you save it to, oh, that's interesting. I think these are just lists within here. Anyway, these are other ways I've used it just in my regular maps. So I can put it under favorites, want to go. I could create a new list of all my favorite Thai restaurants.
Right, but what I was saying that if I went into Keeps and I saw this recipe or anything that reminded me of a restaurant or something, would it be possible to link that element
From Keep to a map.
right to the maps? Like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I discovered this, and there was a great restaurant.
Yeah,
Do you follow what I'm saying? That way that that memory, it also has a placement link to it that, oh, if you do want great eggplant parmesan, I can go here. This
right.
is what I'm asking.
I don't know of a direct way to do that. So that's something you can look up. That's how I would do it. I would Google. I'm thinking that you would just end up grabbing either the link to the map or to that restaurant and adding it to this in Google Keep. If I was trying to see it I just don't imagine. So for me, I don't imagine going to my maps to think about cooking eggplant parmesan, but I would go there to look for a really good restaurant, and then I'd want to have labeled it with eggplant parmesan on my map. So maybe you have a really great idea in your mind of exactly how that would work. And I'm sure there are people out, if you Google it, maybe YouTube, someone has done that. It's not directly connected. So what is connected to Keep is that you can make this into a Google, and it's not showing it to me here. You should be able to download it in a Google Doc. But that's the only other Google tool that I know it
Would
connects
it be the ellipse next to the image to download it? Would
over
it be,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Google Docs integrates very
Oh,
tightly with
stop.
Google Drive.
Now
This
my
drive
phone.
is essentially its home for storage and file
So I have an
management.
Android phone and
However,
it hears me say Google things and now it's telling me a bunch of stuff. And I
third-party
can't make it
applications.
stop. There we go. Yeah, that's interesting that I'm not seeing it here. So again, some of these tools look a little different when you're on your phone and when you're on your screen version. So to connect right now, the only way I know that, so you definitely could connect a link to a map into Google Keep. And you could take something that you have in Google Keep and link it into a map, but they won't be directly linked.
Right, you're just basically saying just copy and paste.
Yeah, I think or deciding which place is more useful for you, right? So I've become I use Google Keep for a lot of things that I used to do other things. Like I had something called Pocket for all those articles that I used to not finish reading. And now they're just all here together. And that works for me. Another thing that I do with Google Keep is I manage a bunch of different Google groups. And whenever I add people to the Google group, I want to welcome them. So I have just put in my little welcome message is. So for example, if this was the NIACE group, I have, oh, it's a bad example. Yeah, here it is. I try to make them all green. Anyway, so I can just copy and paste this language straight into an email. Now, I'm guessing there's an even better way to have that automated somewhere else. I just have, this was just this I knew enough to do without having to learn a lot of new things, but maybe this would be something for me to think about because I have a lot of situations where I have to send similar messages out. And I had a friend who used to do something with scripts in Google in Outlook, but I don't know. I have to decide if that's where I want to put my energy. So in some ways, thinking about the places that you feel you have a gap, you're dissatisfied with what your current solution is for something. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of us, we've found this at the LAC quite often, that we keep doing something the same way, even when we're not happy with it, until it really breaks. And then we have to go find something else. And we find there's really cool new things that have been out there for a while that if we'd been, looking for them earlier, we would have had a nicer life for longer. But we often stay with the thing until it just doesn't work enough.
Right. Very quickly, I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask, would this be an equivalent to Pinterest? Would this be Google's version of Pinterest?
So it's interesting you mentioned Pinterest. The way I've often introduced Google Keep is just to put it up and have people tell me what they think it is for. So the difference to me about Pinterest and Google Keep is that Google Keep is purely mine. There's no feed that I'm pulling from, right? With Pinterest, I don't know how you're using it, but when I use Pinterest, there's a feed and I just kind of stay in there. So it already knows that I like, so let me just go into Pinterest in case you guys aren't familiar. So Pinterest, when you first sign up, it immediately starts to figure out what you care about. And similar, I think I see what you're saying, because it's similar to the way that we labeled things in Google Keep. Here I create boards, and the boards have a name. So if I go into my boards, will it show me here? Yeah, these are all my boards. And the more you have, the more it knows what you like. You can also follow other people's boards. You can follow individuals. And then their content will show up in that feed that I was just showing you. So the home view is this endless flow of images related to all the things that you've demonstrated that you like. And it could be, you'll see it's a lot about hair and shoes here for me, but you can have educational ones, right? I've done that. If we go into my boards, there's some things on critical thinking. And a lot of teachers put a lot of content up here. So for gathering ideas on different topics, for having your learners could use Google Keep this way, or sorry, Pinterest this way. Google Keep is a blank, there's nothing here. When you first start, in fact, I'll stop sharing here and let me go to a new account that doesn't have anything in their Google Keep. That will demonstrate a little bit better. So with all these Google tools, you have them even if you've never used them. So you would just go to keep.google.com. And let me share this with you. So this is an account that has never used Google Keep. So there's nothing there until you go in and put a note in. You can then go out and say, let's see, let me move this a little bit. So say that I wanted to include this website in Google Keep. I could paste it there. And I could let's see. So I can add the label, right? So this could be organizations. And I could change the color of it, maybe put broccoli behind it. You can't upload your own pictures here, but you can, in this document, come in and add a picture. So say I do that, and I can go to my images, and I can have me with my mic drop. So now, so what I've seen teachers do is make amazing Google Keep that has very, the image of whatever it is that you want to have, whatever the content's related to. And so it's very visually, it even looks more like Pinterest, but this is all made by me. There's no feed. It is just, it's more akin to a note-taking app. They've built in all these things that make it a little bit amazing to use. One of the things that when I first started using it, I really loved was that you can take a photo. Let's see, do I have an image I could do this with? Let me make a new note. Let's find something with some writing in it. Okay. So say you're out in the world and you see a sign and you want to grab that information, but all you can do is take a photo of it. You take the photo and then you come in here and you go grab image text, and it grabs all that text and puts it in here in an editable format with a live link in it. So I've taken pictures of a sign in a program or something that had all this information and then a link to how to sign up to join the class or whatever. And if I take that photo and I put it into Google Keep, and I think you can actually even do this in Google Photo now, but I don't know how to do it as well in there. But in Google Keep, then I can get that that content. And what blew my mind the most was this live link piece, because that's really hard to get any other way. Like, again, as a human, I'm really bad at typing that down. So say I'd stood there and typed all of this into my phone, fine, but to get a long URL right would be very difficult. So so that's kind of another cool thing that it does. Let's see. So we had delete the note, add label, add drawing. So you can draw freehand. You can make a copy of it. You can make checkboxes. So if it's a to-do list, for example, you could have checkboxes there, and you can move the items around. And then once you check something, it's just going to go down to the bottom. So it stays there and you can see it, but it's struck off. So I probably first started using it as a to-do list without knowing that all these things were possible in there. So we did grab image text. There it is. So this is the copy to Google Docs. So now if I click copy to Google Docs, it's going to make a Google Doc, maybe. I don't know why it should pop it up for me, but I don't see it doing that. There we go. So now I can open that doc. So again, maybe you've been collecting this over time and you're doing it on your phone. I think Google Keep is really friendly for the phone, but then you want it to be content that you want to share as an actual Google Doc with people. You could just transfer it over to a Google Doc from Google Keep. So Google Keep ends up being my catch-all, and that can be hard, right? I was thinking about that, when I was saying that earlier about the labeling of files versus putting things in folders. Folders make so much sense to me, and it is a way of organizing my content that like really resonates, and I feel very comfortable with it. But I feel like we live in a world. So this is free. Sorry, I didn't see the hand from Nabila. Did you want to ask something?
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
I put the question in the chat.
Okay, so this is the question whether it
Thank
costs
you.
money. So yeah, this is all free. So
Oh, okay.
Keep is
Thank you.
free. Yeah, these are all parts of just regular Google.
Yeah, but I'm not able to create a new list. I'm trying to follow you as I open the
So you're in Keep, you're in here,
yeah, I'm in Keep, yeah.
and when you look at the top, you don't get to take a note.
And it's like there are like the on the menu here, notes, right? So I clicked and it's like it's not.
So you're not seeing this. So there should be a box. There's a search box.
Yes, yeah.
at the top.
Should put something there.
Well, that's to search. And then
Yeah.
if you want to start a new note, you just type in the take a note. Do you see that?
I see notes, reminders, edit labels, archive, trash.
In the middle of your,
Okay.
I can stop sharing and you can share. You want to share?
You sure?
And I'm sorry if I don't see you guys raise your hands. I apologize. I have so many things
That's
on
okay.
the screen, but just unmute because we're a small enough group. It's all good. Oh, interesting. So click in the search area for a second. Oh, now it's coming up. It's just taking a time. That box just below where there you go.
So now it's working.
Yeah,
It wasn't working before.
I think it's just
Ah.
slow in populating.
Okay, internet issues. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. But that's
Thanks.
a great. And then if you look at it on your phone, it's even simpler. And once you download the app, so just for everyone's sake, if you're on your phone and you were to find an article that you thought was interesting, how do you save that now? Do you all have techniques? Do you email it to yourself or text it, or what do you do?
Oh, I bookmark it in the website, like on the Safari.
Okay.
If you want to come back to
I
it.
email it to myself.
You email it to yourself, Dennis?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do a lot of emailing to myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
It works, right? So we have bookmarking, whatever browser you're using, you certainly can bookmark things there. Again, it stopped working for me because I have crazy bookmark folders that are out of control and they're very hard to move around inside. So the new bookmarks end up at the bottom. So for me, that was not a solution. So Keep was. But if it's a solution, that's fantastic. Emailing is fine. I had a colleague who, there must have been some, how to be more productive book or something that talked about like not touching things more than one time. And so I'm trying to always find fewer steps. So literally I'm on my phone and my phone actually has, it tells me what it thinks I care about. So there's some articles here. You'll see, in fact, today, I have a couple of articles from New York Times where people have created either lists for summer reading or whatever. And that's an article I'm like, oh my gosh, I should save that for Google Club. I could have bookmarked it, but it felt too temporary. Like I didn't need it forever. I wanted it for this specific purpose. So when I find the article and then I click on the little share symbol, which on my phone, Android phone, and whatever is that little sideways kind of carrot triangle thing. It gives me a lot of different options for sharing. Let's see if it'll do it for me right here. Yes. So I don't know if this is going to show for you guys. Yeah, no, I need to get rid of my background if I want to do it. Okay.
I will see it now at the end. Yeah, okay.
Anyway, it gives me lots of options. Like I could share it as a text message with a bunch of people. I could send it as a email.
Yeah, just hold your phone in front of you. We should see.
Can you
No,
read
I mean in front of your face, so it
in front
doesn't.
of my face? But
There you go.
Okay,
See?
now it works.
But can you see what I'm showing you? I don't know that you can see.
New York City.
Yeah, you're seeing the
There you
article,
go.
but what I want to show you is this, which
Just push that portion in front of your face so it
yeah,
doesn't.
but then I have to come really close to the camera. I'm just saying it's so tiny you can't
Okay.
read it.
Oh, okay, see.
Yeah, I
you can't
see.
read it. I can do a screenshot. But my point is, if you are on your phone and you want to save something, if you're happy with your process, that's fantastic. But the way that it works on my phone, the minute I have an app here, it will offer it as an option of a place to share it. And that's where I see Google Keep. So Google Keep pops up very quickly as an option for where to share it. And then it's automatically there waiting for me, but it's sort of temporary. And what I was saying about folders is that my go-to is folders, but maybe Twitter got me comfortable, early days of Twitter, where, with email, I think we have a sense of responsibility that we should be deleting things and cleaning out our mailboxes and all that stuff. Maybe not so much anymore, but when I was 10 years ago, that was a goal of mine to have an empty inbox. And then Twitter came along and I was like, oh, I just don't care about the stuff that I don't care about. And it just flows past me. And the things I care about, I need to figure out a place to put them. So that's when I would use Pocket, or probably a lot of my bookmarks come from that time period. So, you see something that was really interesting and you wanted to save it, maybe do a screenshot. So I had a set of things I could do, or I'd retweet it. Maybe that would be another way to do it. But I think that got me a little bit more comfortable with the idea that there could just be this endless feed. And Pinterest is similar, right? Like I don't have to do anything with anything on Pinterest except the stuff I care about. I don't have to do anything with anything in Twitter back in the old days unless I cared about it. Where with email, it felt like, no, my job is always to decide what don't I care about, what do I care about, and I should be always putting stuff away. And I'm moving more and more to a place where I'm comfortable with the chaos, the area that I don't have to worry about. And I think that Google Keep for me works well for me because it's a bit like that. I don't have to create folders. I created labels, and I know that I have a really good search tool in there. So if I save something there, I feel pretty comfortable that I'll be able to find it again. And I think that is not how I feel about my bookmarks. My bookmarks are chaos. They're not easy for me to find the thing in. Emails, it would be a few steps for me to get something out of email. I definitely can do that, but it would be a few steps. So for me, Google Keep has filled that space. So this is a great example of something where you've got a system and it's working for you, but is it something you would like to improve? And it doesn't have to be this, but this kind of practice is a great place to get to your next digital tool or the next use of a digital tool that you might be interested in investigating is to look for the gaps, look for the places where what you have right now doesn't fully take care of what it is you would like to have happen. And
That's going to help us develop a goal maybe for the summer.
well, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming from that perspective, like this is like the thought game to help you get to what you might want to drill down on. And was it Dennis? Who was it earlier who said something about it working across iPhones and Android?
Yeah, I said that.
And remind me what that was about?
That was me just saying that the apps are available for both Android and iPhone.
Yes. So the problem with my husband is he does not have Google Photo. He's using only the Apple Photo tool. And what we found is Apple can be very proprietary. So if you're not an Apple user, if you're not an iPhone user, there's a lot of content that he has on his phone that it's very hard for him to share with me. But if he had Google Photo and I have Google Photo, then it's very easy. Just as you said, it's completely agnostic. It will work across all the devices. He just does not
Right.
have some.
It's interesting because I was a previous Android user and I just switched to iPhone, and I've synced my photos that I take in my iPhone to my Google Photos. So I'm both saving in my phone and to the cloud and to my Google Photos. So I'm surprised he's not able to do the
He
same.
just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to download another app. This is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Like it's
okay.
totally on it's totally on him.
Oh,
So my point with that is that phones come with some of their own proprietary tools, just like Safari versus Chrome. And if you are using one of those, you might not even notice. Like I know a lot of people with iPhones use Notes, which is a tool that's built into the iPhone. But again, it doesn't travel across your devices, right? So Google Keep travels across all my devices. Even if I have an iPhone, if I have an Android, whatever, if I have a PC or I have a MacBook, whatever it is, it will work across all the devices, just as you pointed out. And that is one of the reasons why we focus on Google. You're giving a lot to Google and you're getting a lot of stuff for free. But on top of that, you get to access your stuff across all your devices, which both for you as a teacher and as a human in the world and for your learners, that is incredibly valuable because we're often going to be doing this work in multiple places. So we might start it in class, we might start on our phone, but then we're at the library or we're at a friend's house, or I'm on my work computer and then I'm on my home computer. So what Google gives us is a very easy way, as long as you have internet, a very easy way to have the same functionality and the same access to the same content that you've been working on in various places. Whereas if you were using Microsoft or you were using something else that's a little bit more proprietary, it could cost you a lot more money, and maybe you would still have this ability to share things in the cloud. But it costs a lot more money, and you have to download sometimes the file, the actual creation tools in order to make the content, where Google, it just all lives in the cloud. All right, so yes, this was, I think, a great example of a way to kind of think through what would be, whether you do it this summer or not, but like if you were just trying to make a list of the places you would like to explore more and being more explicit about that by writing it down, maybe in Google Keep, the things that you would like, the places where you're frustrated, that things just aren't quite, you feel like there must be a better way. There isn't always a better way, but maybe that can lead you then to finding, to do some exploration. And like you might start on YouTube, or you might start on Vimeo or somewhere else to find how-to videos or people describing how they've handled that situation. Any questions or has this brought up any thoughts for any of you in your lives? Are there things that you come into contact with where you're like, oh, I know there has to be a better way?
I think what you outlined hit me with the Google Keeps because I am also I write. So definitely ideas will pop into my head for scenes or anything. So Google Keeps. I just downloaded it because I
Oh,
thought
it's
it was,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. I
It,
thought it was a brilliant way to outline some ideas or some plot ideas and just throw it right in there, and I can revisit later based upon the theme or the outline of the book.
That's exciting. I hope to hear more about how that works for you. I think it really is. I mean, again, people find their own ways of using it, but I find it to be very rarely am I irritated by it. Meaning, very rarely do I find there's something I want to be able to do. And in fact, they just added formatting. So up before this, you couldn't format. Now you can actually, you know, especially if you're doing writing, that could be very valuable. So that's fantastic. Anybody else, any thoughts? We're going to continue on with our thinking here, but this is a great time. You know, you're all inspiring each other. So if you have ideas, do share them. All right, I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go back to this one. All right, so this is my crazy chaotic, like it really is endless. I have a lot of stuff in my Google Keep, but I don't have to do anything about that. I can just come in and deal with things. Okay, so back to our slides. So we looked at calendar, tasks. This was Keep. We had Gmail that we looked at, which I feel like I have to admit that my personal email is a Yahoo account because I still don't really like the way Gmail works. And I'm guessing that's partly because I'm not using it and not familiar with it. So I'd have to decide if that's what I'm gonna, that would be like a big step for me. And there's more and more I know that you can do with Gmail. Like Gmail has become, it's getting better, or at least organized differently. Google Chat, we looked at Google Sites, Google Meet. We did some stuff around Google Classroom. We actually did quite a bit around Google Drive early on about how to organize files, change the color of folders, making, this idea of shortcuts and things like that. Sheets, which we think is like Excel, and Google Docs, which we think is like Word Docs, and Google Forms. We looked at for making quizzes and surveys. So these are tools that we played with this year. And if you wanted to go back and look at any of our the sessions that we've done, we have our blog where we have been posting for each meeting. So the way the blog is set up, each meeting is here. The recording of the meeting is here, and there's a link to the slides. But you can also come down the side here, and then you could find all the sessions that have been labeled. So for example, we just talked about Google Keep a lot. Let's see if we have Google Keep in here. There it is. So this would show you all the sessions where we talked about Google Keep. So if you're interested in looking back at any of the tools that we used, combining knowing what tool you want to look at, our blog might have some content for you. So the link to the blog I'll put in the chat, but you have it in the slides. Every set of slides, I've put it in there. And that's what I usually share out as well when I send you guys the sort of follow-up to our session. So I upload the video to YouTube as well, but the blog has the access to the slides. So it's kind of a double bonus. So the next question is, how do you like to learn? Are you someone who can watch some YouTube videos and get what you need? And maybe for certain kinds of things you can do that, and for certain things you can't. Would it be better for you to find maybe a class? You could even do an in-person class. I think the libraries have a lot of one-off sessions on particular topics. Would you want to work with a friend maybe? Do you just want to go in and play around? So thinking a little bit about your own, and I say but it's like, what's the most effective way for you? What's attractive to you? What would make you want to do this? I'm someone who does better with a class, I think, because I'm better at staying on schedule with somebody else's schedule. So if it's left up to me, will I turn on Coursera or will I turn on YouTube? I don't have a good track record with that. But if I was working with somebody else and we both agreed to do it, and then maybe we're going to meet afterwards and talk about it, then I might do it. When I was studying, I studied for the GRE. Actually, no, this was back, yeah, it was a GRE. And I had a friend who'd taken it, and we kind of did like study sessions, but they weren't really study sessions. I had to do homework, and then I'd meet with her, and we would talk about other things as well as the homework. But having that date set that I was going to meet with her made me do the homework, even if I did it the night before, you know. So knowing yourself a little bit about how do you keep yourself, you know, honest to whatever your desire is. There's a video at the end here which talks a little bit about routines versus habits, and it's a nice little video. I highly recommend it, and I think it helps take out some of the guilt we might feel of the things that we haven't achieved, but also help us think a little bit about making them into smaller bites, and that there are some painless ways that habits can be formed just by doing the same thing kind of over and over again. And the problem is we often do the same thing over and over again without being very conscious of it, and then it's very hard to break out of the thing. So I think here they're looking like it talks about diet, but I think it could be anything. So that video is baked in there. But so thinking a little bit about how, you know, how you learn would impact what your steps are going to be here. Again, if it's low hanging fruit, maybe it's just watching a YouTube video specifically and then doing the thing to get ready for next year. You're going to create some content, or as Dennis was saying, maybe there's something that you do as for your own practice. If you're a writer, what are some things that, you know, you just have to take the time to learn the thing by watching maybe one YouTube video or taking one class. And then the real learning is that you're going to do it and you're going to try it out and figure out how it works for you. Does anyone want to say how they like to learn, or what if they're imagining the most perfect situation for themselves, what that would be like? Anybody want to share? You can always put it in the chat, but it's something to think about. We're all a little different. And again, this being self-aware, this is something for our learners to work on as well, right? Like what is useful? And you could get into all the stuff of, you know, are you a visual learner or what, those pieces as well. But whatever those are, let's put that into this package. And this is what I was talking about, these articles in the Times. So they have a New York Times summer reading bucket list. So you can have a bucket list of things that you want to be able to do. And maybe you're only going to get 3 things. Maybe the first step is just to make a giant bucket list in Google Keep that you have with you all the time, so you can go back to it whenever you want to. So you have access to this article if you're interested, but this is that idea of, you know, helping you do something a little different than you normally do just by giving yourself a list of things to do. Another version of that is just, this is another thing that they had in the Times, was a creativity challenge, and this is just for 1 week. And on Monday, you're going to doodle. On Tuesday, you're going to write a poem. On Wednesday, you're going to take a moment to daydream. On Thursday, you're going to 10% more. And then on Friday, you're going to try a new thing. And this stuff can be low. Again, it doesn't have to be huge. I think that when I moved to New York in 1998, I made a rule for myself that I had to do a new thing every week. And but by a new thing, it could be just going to a new laundromat or getting off at a different subway stop. And then my brother moved to New York, and he really fell into that FOMO. Like, it was very hard for him to make a selection of which new thing to do because he was always afraid of missing out on something else, because New York is crazy, right? There's just 50 million things going on all the time. But I didn't have that problem because it wasn't about doing the best thing. It was just do something. And it really does sometimes just, you know, blow away the cobwebs a little bit. So maybe it's just a new thing with Google. You're just going to try out a new thing with Google once a week. And it could be as simple as, how the heck do I set up the blah, blah, blah? Or it could be, I want to use Google Classroom and I want to put all my lessons in there, or whatever it is. So it could be small or big, but that's another way to think about creating your vision of what it is you would like to achieve. And then thinking about what support you need, which goes along with how you learn, right? So if it is something that you could do asynchronously, or something that you need to do on a very, you know, very I'm going to do it every Thursday in a class that meets in person, but all those things. So what support do you need to achieve the goal that you're setting for yourself? And what I have now is a few different places you can go. And I've been mentioning YouTube, but there are a lot of other places. So these are sort of breakouts of places that specifically around Google that you can get a lot more support in. And there's a slide that has several of them listed, right? So we have applied digital skills, which we've looked at before. That's what this one is. Huge amount of applied uses of Google tools. And you can search by tool, you can search by, tool is generally what I would do. If we go there, let's go there. So you'll have to make an account, but just to learn about it, you come in here and you go to browse curriculum. And, like I'm going to just keep on our Google Keep kick here. I can look for so you can see there's 216 lessons. It's a little overwhelming. So I want to narrow it down, and I'm going to do that by coming in here and seeing if I can find, and they might not even list Google Keep. I don't think they do. And they even still have Jamboard, which we don't have anymore. So say, as a person like myself, I'm going to really learn Gmail this year. So I'm going to click on Gmail. Well, that's helpful. That narrowed it down to 20 lesson ideas. If you wanted to, you could also say, these are skills. There are also, depending if you're a teacher and you wanted to use this with students, you could say, you want it to do with math. I'm guessing there's none. Yeah, there's none. But I'll get rid of that one. So sometimes that doesn't work, but that can help. If you're looking at Google Slides, for example, they'll have some great lessons for different types of content with Google Slides. So I could learn the basics of Gmail under Workspace, plan and promote an event, use digital tools for everyday tasks, communicate using email, schedule emails for goal setting. What? This could be for us. I actually have some links. So you can actually set up a thing that will send you emails in the future to check in with yourself. So they're going to show you how to do this with Gmail. I also have it in our slides with these two tools that are really funny, Future Me and emailyourfutureself.com, which you might want to use with learners. So they're very simple. You come here and you write your note and you send it to yourself and you say, I want it to be delivered in 6 months. And you'll get that email and it will say, how did you do? I hope you did your homework. Or these were the goals we had. And it's not so important that you get that email, but the setting of the intention, right? What are you writing here? What is it that you want for your future self? So anyway, you could do that with your Gmail, but you can also do it with these other tools. And I don't know if you remember this woman, she was during COVID, she did a bunch of videos on having her future self come back and be like, yeah, that's nothing compared to the reality. So you can watch those videos if you want to watch those videos for ye oldie times. So we do have a document. If you want to use it, you can certainly use something else or obviously not do anything at all or something in between. But this document basically just takes you through what we've talked about. What do you want to learn? How do you like to learn? What support do you need? Setting your intention, which is that future me email. And then in July, August, September, what is it you're going to do? And it could be super lightweight. Or it could be something where every Thursday, you're going to have your own Tech Thursday and you're going to do one thing. But by writing it down, you're just setting the intention a little bit more clearly for yourself. And then breaking down whatever steps need to come into that, right? So like if I said I'm going to learn Gmail, I need to break that down. I'm going to learn how to personalize my email or set up a signature line, or, I'd want to be able to really get explicit there. And that might require me to do a little research, right? I might have to go in and watch some videos about what are the possibilities? When I first disliked Gmail, it was partially because everything was in that conversation setup. And I didn't know for a while that you could turn off the conversation setting. So it was very confusing to me that I wouldn't see the new email come in. I would only see it as another email linked to all the other emails from that conversation. I know some people love that. It annoyed me enough, but I didn't know how to turn it off. And for a little while, that meant that I didn't even go near it. So I wouldn't even know some of the things that I want to be able to deal with. So that's all of the summer planning. And again, when we come back, we probably won't start up. It takes us a little bit to get going. So it'll be September, October before our first meeting. And if you do stuff, you can tell us about it then, or you can tell us why it didn't work out at all. But I hope that this is giving you some sense of how to begin to think about. Maybe, again, I think some of you maybe already had ideas. But coming from a place where you're solving a problem for yourself. And so first step is probably identifying the problem and then solving the problem. A few other items. I mentioned the vids piece. There's another tool that Google's put out that's very like vids, which is called Veo. And it might be worth checking out. So it's DeepMind.Google models Veo. Again, it can create, you tell it verbally what you want it to do, and it can make a short video. Like I think I had a video of a teacher teaching people how to manage their Google Drive. Let's see if I kept that. I don't know if I did or not. Yeah, I don't know. It's not showing what I did. Maybe I deleted mine. Anyway, you can come in and play with that. That is definitely something everyone can access. And then the other big one was Notebook LM, which is another Google product that is an AI product. What I love about Notebook LM is that you can decide what content it's going to be. We think about generative AI accessing these giant data sets, and sometimes that's why the information we get back is not accurate or is biased or whatever, and it can feel a little out of control, and you need to go in and really double check that what it's come up with is accurate. With Notebook LM, the idea is that you upload or link to the content you want it to focus on, and then you can ask it those questions. So I was at a conference and I recorded some sessions and put the summaries from those sessions into a notebook, and then I added slide presentations or PDFs that I got from those sessions, and all of that is in one notebook. And now I can go into that notebook and I can actually ask it questions about, what was it they said in that session about, let's see if I can open this up. All right, we made one for our Google Club education thing. So we put all our slides in from all of our sessions to do, so you could come here and ask questions about Google Keep, for example. Although I don't think we did Google Keep this year so much, but you could ask about what did we study about Gmail this year? What's crazy about Notebook LM is this additional piece where they'll actually make a little podcast about the content. There'll be two people talking about what is in this notebook. And then you can even add yourself into that conversation. So the first step would be to load the conversation. I don't know, I've always had trouble getting it to do it while I'm on Zoom. So the first step is these two people talking, and then you click on interactive mode, and then they say, oh, someone's joined us, and then you get to ask questions. So now if I play this.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today,
hearing that?
we're tackling something that probably affects all of us. Managing time and just, communicating well.
Right.
So now I'm adding interactive mode. You might not like it. Anyway, definitely worth playing with. So highly recommend checking out Notebook LM. And I'm just going to give you the link to our evaluation. It'd be great if you could all do the evaluation. This is our last one of the year. My numbers are always a bit low. I always forget to give you guys the link. So let me put that in the chat.
I'm sorry, Nell, I had a quick question.
Yes.
It's Lauren. So Notebook LM, you said it's like a podcast. How would you use it in the classroom? Or how could you use it in the classroom?
So say that again. What about the podcast?
Like you said, it's like a podcast. How could we use it in the classroom?
So you could have it play. I mean, I think the way that it works, let's pull it up again. Could you hear it? I can stop sharing and share with better sound, maybe. Let me do that. Okay. So once I get it to play, the first way, so one of the downsides of this is it's hard to share your notebook with other people as a link. Unlike most Google tools where I can just, I have a shareable link to give you, it looks like I can share it, but when I share this link with other people, they don't have access. So I don't know if you have to have the pro level or what the deal is with that. I can share it with you when we're all together. So if I was a teacher and we put all this content in here together, and then we play the podcast.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that probably affects all of us, managing time and just, communicating well.
And then I can put the interactive in. Now the interactive allows me, once it starts, will it let me? I don't know if it's going to do it, but the interactive lets me ask questions. I can also ask the questions down here, right? So I can say, how can we use Gmail with learners? And it's going to, what's nice here is it's only going to what we have put in here. So if you ask that question of ChatGPT, it's going to go to the whole world, and that can be very useful. But when you're studying certain kinds of things, like in this case, we were studying for this certification. And yes, there are a cajillion things you could do with Gmail and learners, but we really only care about the things that the certification test might ask about, right? So you can imagine if you're studying for the GED, you could have a bunch of GED content in here, and the questions that you're asking will only take from the content that we put in there. So the podcast, it's more like your learners would make their own notebooks with content that they want to study. And it could be that you help them create their notebooks. So it could be a website. Like, let me show you some other ones I've created. We had another situation where we were going to do testimony with City Council about digital equity. And so they were beginning to explore a possible new bill around access to broadband. And so we could find the old bill, we could find the new bill, we could find some articles about why the old bill failed. We could find some other stuff. We could put in our own, information about our organization. And then I could ask it to write me testimony. But it was only based on actual content related explicitly to this situation. So I feel like with Notebook, it's going to be it's very personal. As a teacher, you can demonstrate how to use it, but I think you want your learners to create their own notebooks. And part of the skill set here is deciding what would be useful content to have in there, because you can actually just add a link to a website, right? I can put something in from my Google Drive. I can add something from a website, from YouTube. I could paste text in here. I could upload a PDF. So you want to, the job for your learners in some ways and for yourself is to decide what is actually useful content for the thing I want to study. And then have all the good sources that you've already decided are good sources and put them in here. And then what people do is in their car, they're driving along, they might play the podcast, and they're kind of studying the content that they pre-created by putting stuff into Notebook. But I'd love to hear from you how you think you could use it, and maybe you'll try it out. I've heard from some people they use it a lot, and they're actually a little bit bored by the two computer voices that make the podcast. For me, it still kind of blows my mind, but I don't know that it's so useful actually for me for studying something to have it just have these two people talk. When I was looking at the content from my conference, just gonna see if I can get to my other notebooks. That was useful because I could kind of interrogate the ideas, right? Like I went to a workshop on sort of personal identity and math. And then I went to some sessions on digital resilience, and I saw in my own brain like how there was some overlap, but I could now put all my notes in here and ask Notebook to tell me what it thought, and then I could actually speak back to that and say, yeah, but I thought it was more about this or whatever. So you could have this, kind of didactic Socratic conversation to discover new thoughts. And because you're limiting it, so I think the two things I like the most are that I am deciding what the content is. I feel that makes me feel much more comfortable interrogating the ideas, because the ideas are something that I can wrap my arms around, rather than like this giant chaos world of like, that might not be true. I think this still could have some of that in there, right? But at least I'm managing it myself. And I could be very narrow in what I'm studying in that particular notebook, which could be very valuable, especially if I'm studying for an exam, or I want to really learn some policy or something like that. So those are the places that it's already stood out to me, but I'm still learning, I'm still thinking about ways that it could actually have a use case for me. The other thing is it can translate, I believe, into 50 languages. So if you have learners who are low level, or they want to learn some information, they don't always have to do that in English. They could do it in their native language, or maybe they have people in their family who don't speak English very well and want to be able to still understand ideas. So that's Notebook LM. All right, I'm going to stop sharing there. And we are actually at time. So I put the evaluation in the chat. I hope that this has inspired you maybe to think about some little project to do this summer. When we come back in the fall, we will start off by finding out how that went for you guys and reviewing some of these ideas. But feel free to reach out to me in between times if you want to have a study buddy or try something out. And we will certainly announce when we have our next meeting. I know last year we had talked about possibly having some in-person sessions, or sort of in-person basic level workshops, and then having maybe this be a little bit more of a conversation about what we do. And that's something I'm looking into doing.
I would love that. Thank
yeah.
you.
Our struggle is space. Like the large room in our building is no longer there, and so it might be an issue where we'd ask you to bring your own devices, and then we'd meet together. But we'll work on that. So yes, thank you so much. Have a lovely summer, all of you. So great to see you and celebrate the end of June with you. And I look forward to seeing you in the fall.
Thank you. Okay,
And I'll
thank
share out-
you so much. Thank you. Bye.
I'll share out the
Have a good one.
recording and other things after this.
Thank
So,
you.
all right, take care, everybody.
Take care now. Thank